So good evening, everybody. Let's start out by cultivating our motivation. And take a minute to think of all the different life forms we could have been born as, all the different conditions we could have been born in, where we would have had no opportunity to encounter the Dharma, or to be interested in it, or to understand it, or to have the freedom to gather together to listen to teachings. So take a moment and really appreciate the conditions that we have now, both the external ones in our world and the internal ones that have to do with our mental state and our physical state. And seeing that it doesn't happen so often to have all these causes and conditions come together, then let's have a strong determination that now that they have, we're not going to waste the opportunity, and that we really want to use it to learn and put into practice the Buddha's teachings so that we can progress along the path. And let's set our highest aim not for simply our own liberation from cyclic existence, but with a heart that really cherishes others. Let's set our aim for full enlightenment, where we'll have the capability of being of the greatest benefit to all living beings, ourselves and all others. And in order to attain full enlightenment, it's good to know the paths and grounds of practice, the various realizations that we need to generate on our way to enlightenment, so that we can then go about generating them. And so therefore we'll listen to the teachings on the paths and grounds. Okay, so we've been studying the paths and grounds, and we finished the section on the fundamental vehicle, so the hearers and the solitary realizers, and how they practice to progress along the path to arhatship, in other words, to the personal peace that is liberation from cyclic existence. And then we've started going through the talking about the practice of the bodhisattvas, those beings who are aiming for full awakening with a motivation of altruism, wanting to benefit each and every sentient being, not just themselves, but everybody else as well. And so because that aim is so vast, then what they have to do to practice to extend the mind in that way and gain those realizations is also very, very vast. Okay, and there's a certain amount of specific terminology that we learn in studying this, and so it takes some effort. People need, not all of you here have some background, so if you don't understand everything, that's okay. The way you get the background is by listening, and then slowly you get to know the words and then the meanings and then how they work together, and you slowly gain some understanding. And then the people who have been studying the text from the beginning, if you review your notes, then it really helps to understand what's going on. And if you read the text in advance of the part that we're going to cover but haven't covered yet, if you read that in advance, then when we come to that, you have some idea of what we're talking about. And also if you read other sources, either books in the library or commentaries that you may find online about the paths and grounds, then you can really enhance your understanding of the topic and fill in some of the spaces and prepare for the new topics to come. So in studying a text like this, it's not that the teacher has to answer all your questions and spoon feed everything, but we have to show our enthusiasm for the teachings by doing, some outside study and preparation for the class and really trying to think about these things. And in that way, we really gain some benefit from listening and hearing about this. And we'll also understand it much better. Okay. So we're on, we finished part 1 about the fundamental vehicle, and now we're on part 2, the Mahayana grounds and paths. So Mahayana is sometimes translated as the great vehicle or as the universal vehicle. And the idea being it's great or it's universal in that one is seeking the enlightenment, the awakening of all living beings. And it's great because the realizations that one has to generate are also pretty great. So, because the realizations are great, then the path also is great. And it takes time and it takes energy and enthusiasm and everything else. If it were very easy, we already would have been Buddhas long time ago. Okay? So, if we look at the text, it says part 2, introduction, and it says the presentation of the grounds and paths of Mahayana has 3 parts: definitions, divisions, and etymologies. So then the first part is the definitions. Okay, so the definition of a Mahayana ground is a clear realizer of one who has entered a Mahayana path, which serves as a basis of the many good qualities which are its effect. So a clear realizer is a consciousness. Okay, when we talk about a path or a vehicle or a ground, all those are referring to consciousnesses. They're not referring to external things. Okay, so a clear realizer is somebody who's entered the Mahayana path, and one enters the Mahayana path by generating bodhicitta, okay, in an unfabricated manner. Okay, our generation of bodhicitta right now is kind of fabricated, like we do it deliberately at the beginning of teachings, and but this is unfabricated bodhicitta, where it's just, we see sentient beings and automatically the wish comes to be able to liberate them and to attain enlightenment to be able to do so. Okay, so somebody who has that spontaneous bodhicitta. Okay, and this clear realizer serves as a basis for the many good qualities which are its effects. So it's a type of consciousness, a wisdom consciousness, a consciousness imbued with merit that can bring about many good qualities. Okay, in particular, what we want is the good qualities of a fully enlightened being. That's the ultimate thing. Okay, and then the definition of a Mahayana path is a Mahayana clear realizer. So they don't believe here in making definitions like we were taught. Remember, we were taught you can't define one thing using the other word that you also use this word to define for, and you can't define something using the same word that you're defining. But these rules don't hold here. Don't ask me why. Okay? And then the two, Mahayana ground and Mahayana path, are also synonyms. Okay, so we had that when we were talking about the fundamental vehicle, a vehicle, the path, and the ground. The ground are all synonyms. Okay. So now the second category is the divisions. Yeah. So when Mahayana grounds are divided, there are two: Mahayana causal grounds and effect grounds. Okay. So Mahayana causal grounds, Mahayana learner's ground, and Bodhisattva grounds are synonymous. So that's telling you something about what causal ground is. Okay? Yeah. So, and they're opposed. We'll do the second line, then it'll become clear. The Mahayana effect ground, Mahayana non-learner's ground, and Buddha ground are synonymous. Okay, so the way that the Mahayana grounds are divided is into two. Those where the causal ground and the effect ground. On the causal ground, you're learning, you're practicing, you don't have all the realizations yet. Okay, and so you're still a bodhisattva. So that's why the causal grounds, the learner's grounds, and the bodhisattva grounds are all synonymous. Okay. When you're on a non-learner's ground or an effect ground, then you have attained Buddhahood. You're on the path of no more learning of the bodhisattva vehicle. Okay? So it's dividing those. So what's the path of seeing, Mahayana path of seeing, going to be? Huh?
A causal ground.
A what?
Causal.
A causal ground. Okay. How about path of meditation?
Causal.
Okay. Path of no more learning? Yeah, that's a resultant ground. Okay. So, yeah, and then when Mahayana causal grounds, okay, the first of those two are divided, there are two: the grounds of bodhisattva common beings and the grounds of bodhisattva superiors, or Aryas. Okay, so what's a bodhisattva common being and what's a bodhisattva Arya? What distinguishes those two groups? Whether or not they've realized emptiness?
8 minutes from the 8th ground.
People can realize emptiness before they even enter the path. Okay, the difference between them is a direct realization of emptiness. In other words, non-conceptual realization. So if you have that non-conceptual realization, you're an Arya, or what they're translating as superior. Sometimes it's translated as a noble being. And if you don't have that direct perception, you may still have a realization of emptiness, but it's not direct, it's conceptual. Or you may have no realization of emptiness. In either case, you're a common being, okay? But to have the bodhisattva common being, you have to be a bodhisattva. Okay, so which paths are the paths of the bodhisattva common beings, and which paths are the paths of the bodhisattva Aryas?
Path of accumulation, path of preparation, and bodhisattva common beings.
Okay, so accumulation, preparation paths are common beings, and seeing and meditation, and no more learning are the paths of the Aryas, because the Buddha is also an Arya. Okay. Now, before we go any further, I want to just go back to bodhicitta. This, because we're about to start talking about the bodhisattva common beings, and as we were talking about before, where you start being a bodhisattva common being is by the path of accumulation, and the demarcation of that is the spontaneous bodhicitta. Okay, so then there's a specific definition of bodhicitta that it's very good to know. So it's a primary mind, yeah, with two aspirations. Yeah, and so this is the way it's usually defined: a primary mind with two aspirations. One aspiration is to work for the benefit of all beings. The second aspiration is to attain full awakening. Okay, now that's how it's usually defined. So, but let's look a little bit closer here. Okay, so as a primary mind, yeah, so what kind of primary mind is it?
Mental consciousness.
It's a mental consciousness. Okay, it's not a sense consciousness. So it's accompanied as a primary mind by different mental factors. Okay, and one of the principal mental factors that accompanies it is the aspiration to attain full awakening. Okay, so technically speaking, yeah, great compassion does not accompany bodhicitta. We just finished all these teachings about great compassion. So in that primary mind that is aspiring for full awakening, yeah, technically speaking, compassion doesn't accompany it because compassion is a cause for it. Okay, and causes and results don't exist at the same time. Okay, so compassion is a mental factor that wishes sentient beings to be free of suffering, and it's a cause for bodhicitta in that it leads to the aspiration that seeks to benefit sentient beings. Okay, and that aspiration that seeks to benefit sentient beings is usually said to be one of the two aspirations with this primary mind. But actually speaking, it's not. Okay, because the aspiration to benefit sentient beings, the object of that aspiration is what? Sentient beings. Okay, what's the object of bodhicitta? It's the wish to attain full enlightenment, full awakening. What's the object? Full awakening. Okay, so full awakening and sentient beings are two different objects. So one mind can't have two different objects. Okay, so that's why the aspiration seeking to benefit sentient beings, first you have great compassion. That leads to the aspiration that seeks to benefit sentient beings. Okay, and then that leads to the bodhicitta, which is the aspiration to attain full awakening. Okay, and the object of that, of the bodhicitta, is full awakening. Okay. Okay, so is that clear? You know, great compassion focuses on sentient beings. The wish to benefit sentient beings focuses on sentient beings. Bodhicitta focuses on full awakening. Yeah. Did you have a question?
I'm not sure if this applies, but I was wondering if compassion is a result of full awakening.
No, compassion is not a result of full awakening. It's a cause for full awakening. Okay, so we can't become Buddhas until we've developed great compassion. So great compassion is developed way, you know, it's way long before we actually become Buddha. Okay.
So if bodhicitta is realized and it's spontaneous, and is it always present?
Is it always present?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yes.
You think so? So you think that when a bodhisattva is meditating on emptiness, bodhicitta is present?
No.
No,
I mean, yeah, I would have thought that, but but I mean, because they're still striving to attain enlightenment, it's just not the direct object. that moment.
Yeah, what they usually say is that at that time, bodhicitta is, when they're meditating on emptiness, bodhicitta is latent. They get into, there's this whole big debate about possess bodhicitta and have bodhicitta, but the basic upshot is that the bodhicitta is latent. Okay, it's not a manifest mind, because at the time of meditating on emptiness, the manifest mind is that wisdom consciousness. Okay? But you can't say that the bodhisattva is completely without bodhicitta at that time either, even though it's not manifest, because then they wouldn't be a bodhisattva anymore. Okay? Okay, so Chapter 1, Bodhisattva Common Beings. Chapter 2 is going to be the Bodhisattva Aryas. Okay, so the definition of a ground of a Bodhisattva common being is a Bodhisattva's clear realizer, which is included within the grounds of activities or of belief, okay? So there's a way of dividing bodhicitta into 4 different levels, okay? So the first level is bodhicitta with faith. The second is bodhicitta, the bodhicitta of pure special resolve. The third is the fully ripening bodhicitta. And the fourth is the bodhicitta free from obscurations. So this bodhicitta, here, when it says a bodhisattva's clear realizer included within the grounds of activities of belief, it's talking about, that level of bodhicitta, the bodhicitta of belief. Okay, so let me just go through these 4 levels of bodhicitta, and then you'll get a little bit better idea of what's happening. Okay, so and we'll go into them a little bit more. So the first one, the bodhicitta of belief, is found on the paths of accumulation and preparation. Okay, and in the Ornament of Clear Realizations, that text by Maitreya, then they have this thing of 22 forms of bodhicitta, which we'll be going through. Okay, so the first 4 of those 22 are put in this category of the bodhicitta of belief, or the bodhicitta of faith. And it's on the paths of accumulation and preparation, so it's telling us that the person who has that hasn't realized emptiness directly. If they're a new bodhisattva, or if there's somebody who was a hearer, solitary realizer first, who then comes back and enters the bodhisattva path, it tells us that they may have realized emptiness, but they haven't done all the accumulation of merit that's necessary to be an Arya bodhisattva. Okay? Then, the second level of bodhicitta is the bodhicitta of pure special resolve. And this is on the 1st to the 7th grounds. Okay, so this is telling us that somebody who's who has bodhicitta of the pure special resolve is an Arya. Okay, so they've realized emptiness directly. But they haven't abandoned all the afflictive obscurations, let alone the cognitive obscurations, because that happens as you transit into the 8th ground. Okay, so the 1st through the 7th grounds are come together. So the first one, the bodhicitta of belief, is so called because they have a belief in emptiness, but they don't have the direct realization yet. The bodhicitta of pure special resolve, they have it's pure, and they have the realization of emptiness, but they haven't been able to eliminate all the afflictive obscurations yet. So it's still very much a resolve, a special resolve. Then, on the pure bhumis, the bhumis 8, 9, or grounds, 8, 9, and 10, they're called the pure grounds because the afflictive obscurations have been eliminated. And there, the bodhicitta is called the fully ripening bodhicitta. And so it's called fully ripening because a bodhisattva on that ground is really in the process of fully ripening their mind, and they're going to become Buddha pretty soon. So they're bodhicittas, you know, really fully ripened and ripening. Okay, and then the bodhicitta that is free from obscurations, that is had only by a Buddha, because a Buddha has eliminated the afflictive obscurations and the cognitive obscurations. Okay? So you can see when you see who has these different, why it's categorized in this way, of belief, pure special resolve, fully ripening, and free from obscuration. Okay, those different kinds of bodhicitta. Okay, so the bodhicitta of belief is generated by having faith and then receiving teachings. And so it's called the bodhicitta of belief because the bodhisattvas on these first two paths engage with emptiness by means of belief. So they have belief in emptiness, and they engage in emptiness by means of belief, but they haven't directly realized it. Okay? So they haven't fully penetrated. They're not, they haven't seen it completely. So there's still this element of belief in their perception of reality. Okay, so these bodhisattvas who have the bodhicitta of belief, they think and believe that all phenomena are empty of true existence, but they don't yet have the direct realizations of it. Okay, so they think about it, they believe in it. They may even have the union of serenity and insight on it. So that's a pretty strong belief. Okay, I mean it's a valid inference, but it's still not seeing it directly. Still quite admirable, though. Okay. So the ground of a Mahayana common being and the path of a Mahayana common being are synonymous. Yeah. And when the grounds of bodhisattva common beings are divided, they're the two, the paths of accumulation and of preparation. Okay? So they're common beings. Yeah, do you understand why they're called common? So this really deflates our pride, doesn't it? When we start thinking we're so unique and special, and we don't even have the realizations of these bodhisattva common beings. Okay. Then we're going into the Mahayana path of accumulation. So its definition is a Mahayana clear realizer of the doctrine. So they always put Mahayana in the definition to differentiate, it from fundamental vehicle. It's somebody who has realized bodhicitta. Okay, and it's a clear realizer of the doctrine. So they have some realization at some level of the Four Noble Truths. Okay. So, when we're going to read from the text a little bit here and then kind of go back and go over it. So when Mahayana paths are divided, it should be when the Mahayana path of accumulation is divided, there are three: small, middling, and great Mahayana paths of accumulation. Remember when we were doing the fundamental vehicle, their path of accumulation also had small, middle, and great. So same thing here. Okay, so the differences between the three levels of the path of accumulation are exemplified through three occasions of a sick person. Okay, so here's three states of a sick person. First, there's a sick person who, although he has taken the actual medicine, it is not yet certain whether the disease will be cured or not. So you've taken the medicine, but you don't know, the outcome isn't certain yet. Okay, the second one is, although certain to recover, it is difficult to recover quickly. So this sick person is going to recover. They're over the hump. They're going to recover, but not necessarily so quickly. Okay, and then the third is it's easy to recover quickly. So that person's going to recover and they're going to do it quickly. Now, that's the analogy. You see the difference between those three? So let's go back and see what they're applying to. So one, yeah, so just one, at the time of the small path of accumulation, although one has obtained the precious mind of awakening, in other words, the bodhicitta, the conventional bodhicitta, okay, that altruistic intention to become a Buddha, in dependence upon which all the great and small good qualities of the Mahayana, just as all nourishment arises in dependence upon the earth, is not definite whether it will degenerate or not degenerate. So that's a translation of one of those Tibetan sentences that is a paragraph. Okay? Remember I was telling you that the way they construct sentences, you know, is you can just keep adding this clause and that clause and it just gets enormous. So this is a good example of it. So we're going to go through part of it now and then I'll explain it a little bit more later. Okay, so at the time of the small path of accumulation, one's attained the precious bodhicitta, okay, but it's not yet definite whether it's going to degenerate or not. Okay, so that's like the person who's taken the medicine, but you don't know if they're going to recover or not. That person has the medicine of the bodhicitta, but you don't know if they're really going to attain Buddhahood or not, because their bodhicitta may degenerate. So they say that this first time, the small path of the Mahayana path of accumulation, the bodhisattva has to be very, very careful, because it's still possible for them to give up the bodhicitta. Okay? And so one of the examples they give is Shariputra, and you know who's the Buddha's disciple, who's most famous for his wisdom. You know, Buddha's closest disciple. When you see the painting of the Buddha, like back there, you know, the two disciples on each side, one is Moggallana, the other Shariputra. Okay? So Shariputra, at one point, you know, he had compassion. There was a beggar who asked him for his hand. Okay, now, don't get all hung up on these stories about, well, what kind of person would ask for a hand? Because what are you going to do with somebody's cut off hand? You know, and why in the world would somebody do that? You know, and what kind of knife did they use? And how come they didn't bleed to death? So don't get into those kind of questions, okay? It's just a story that illustrates a point. And, you know, maybe it's true. I don't know. But the point, you focus on the point, okay? Yeah, don't worry about if Shariputra cauterized the wound or if it got infected, and you know, what did he do if there wasn't any penicillin, and you know. So he cut off his right hand. Yeah, and in ancient Indian culture, your right hand is the hand you eat with, and your left hand is considered dirty. That's the one you clean yourself with, because they don't have toilet paper. So you never use your left hand to give somebody something or to eat or anything like that. And you'll still see this in India when you go there now. But anyway, Shariputra cut off his right hand, and then he handed it to the beggar with his left hand. So the beggar was very offended. You know, like, how dare you give me this thing with your left hand? So he threw it away. Yeah. And then Shariputra, he got really upset, you know, and he said, wow, I gave this person, you know, because Shariputra by that time, he was a bodhisattva, but I gave this person my hand and he doesn't appreciate it at all. And forget him. Why am I working to get enlightened for him? And by leaving one sentient being out of his bodhicitta, he lost his bodhicitta. Okay, so it's an example of how, you know, the bodhicitta can degenerate. So when you're on the Mahayana small path of accumulation, it's not sure if you're going to keep going or if you're going to retrograde, you know. And they say if you give up your bodhicitta, then you spend many long time in a horrible rebirth in order to, because of the negative karma that's created from giving up bodhicitta. Because when you take the bodhisattva vow, you invite all sentient beings to a festival, to a feast of your generating the bodhisattva vow. You know, if you read in Shantideva, he talks about inviting all sentient beings, and this is a celebration. You know, I'm going to work for all the benefit of sentient beings, and you're all invited, and I'm going to feed you the feast of my working for your benefit. But then if you then go on and give up your bodhicitta, it's like you really, you know, you invited everybody to this feast, and then you didn't serve them any food. Yeah, so you went back on what you said you were going to do. So, you know, it creates a lot of negative karma. So, you know, so then the question comes, well, how come Shariputra didn't, you know, he became an arhat, how come he didn't spend all those eons, you know, in the hell realm? And I think it's Chandrakirti, I can't remember, but one of the great sages said that is a matter of karma that only the Buddha understands. So I plead unknowing as the answer to that question. Okay, so that's the small path. Okay. At the time of the middling path of accumulation, although there does not occur degeneration of the bodhicitta, which at this time is like gold, which although placed under the ground for a long time does not decay or turn into something else, one is not able to move quickly to the path of preparation. So on the middling path, your bodhicitta isn't going to degenerate, but you're not going to go quickly to the path of accumulation. You still have more merit that you need to generate. You still need to understand emptiness better. Okay? So that's like the sick person who's going to get well, but not necessarily really quick. Okay. Then, as that bodhisattva practices some more, you know, that first small level bodhisattva has to really keep meditating a lot on bodhicitta to make sure their bodhicitta doesn't degenerate. And they keep meditating on emptiness. Then the middling one keeps meditating on bodhicitta and emptiness. And then finally they reach the great path of the path of accumulation. And at the time of the great path of accumulation, one's good qualities increase like the daily increase of the waxing moon due to hearing precepts, having gone by magical emanation before the Buddhas of the 10 directions, in dependence upon the meditative stabilization of the stream of doctrine, and therefore one is definite to move quickly to the path of preparation. So, on the great path of accumulation, one's good qualities increase quite considerably, so one is going to move to the path of preparation quickly. Okay, so like the sick person who's going to recover quickly. Okay, so when I was reading those three, I left out the middle parts of each paragraph there. I'm going to go back over it now, because it mentioned the bodhicitta that's like earth, like water, and then like the waxing moon. Okay, so let's go back, and because those three bodhicittas are the first three of the 22 bodhicittas mentioned in the Ornament of Clear Realization. Okay? And they're all, and these three are all part of the bodhicitta of belief. Okay, so the earth-like bodhicitta is found on the small path of accumulation, and the way the analogy goes is just as the earth is the basis for planting and growing crops, this bodhicitta is the basis for all virtuous causes of Buddhahood. Okay, so the earth is what it said it earlier that it all nourishment arises in dependence upon the earth. So this first bodhisattva has generated bodhicitta. You know, all the good qualities that are going to come afterwards are arising on the basis of generating this bodhicitta. Okay, and so it's like an earth. You know, the earth is the ground upon which everything grows. Okay, you get the analogy here? Okay, so that's why it's like the earth. It's for planting and growing crops, in this case the crops of the qualities of the higher level bodhisattvas and the Buddhas. Okay, then the gold-like bodhicitta, it said, you know, in the text, although placed under the ground for a long time, does not decay or turn into something else. Okay, so it's stable, not like the bodhicitta of the small path, the small path of accumulation that's unstable. So this one is more stable. It's like gold. Gold doesn't morph into something else. Okay, so gold-like bodhicitta is found on the middle path of accumulation. Just as gold is pure and never loses its nature of being pure gold, no matter how it is examined, this bodhicitta never loses its character of benefiting others until the practitioner attains enlightenment by means of practicing the 6 far-reaching practices. Okay, so this just like gold is pure, it doesn't lose its nature of being pure gold, no matter whether it's cut or rubbed or burned or whatever they do to it. It's still gold through and through. So this bodhicitta is stable. It's not going to degenerate. It's going to be bodhicitta no matter which way you look at it. Okay, so it never loses its character of benefiting others. Yeah. No matter which way you cut it, no matter what you do to it, it always has that wish to benefit others. And it says, until the practitioner attains awakening by means of practicing the 6 far-reaching practices. So it says until. Does that mean that after you attain awakening that you no longer have bodhicitta?
Well, no, you don't have the aspiration to become a Buddha anymore because you are one.
So does that mean that the Buddha doesn't have bodhicitta?
Yes.
A Buddha?
The Buddha has bodhicitta. Buddha has bodhicitta.
Why does the Buddha have bodhicitta?
Why would Buddha have bodhicitta? Bodhicitta is a wish to become a Buddha.
Exactly.
Well, doesn't it sound a bit strange to say that the Buddha doesn't have bodhicitta?
Yes,
Buddha
it
has
does, but
realized
technically-
bodhicitta.
That like he lost his bodhicitta, the Buddha lost his bodhicitta,
He realized
He
his
realized
bodhicitta,
it.
and that was that.
so he doesn't have it anymore?
Now he's a Buddha.
So he lost his bodhicitta.
Oh, yeah, he is bodhicitta.
He is bodhicitta, that's good.
Or she is bodhicitta.
It's not conceptual at that point.
No, that's the realization of emptiness. But think about it. Does the Buddha have, like we say, I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. So does that mean that after you're a Buddha, after you've awakened, that you no longer have refuge?
No,
That you have a Buddha who doesn't have refuge in the 3 jewels?
no.
Does the Buddha have refuge?
Buddha
Buddha
is
is refuge.
Does the Buddha have refuge? Does the Buddha take refuge? Or when you're a Buddha, do you stop taking refuge?
Buddha is refuge. The refuge is the realizations of the Buddha's mind.
But
So the have or is
no, this,
Refuge until I am awakened.
yeah,
So once you're awakened, you don't need to take refuge.
that's what I'm asking. Is that what it means?
Well, that's what it says.
So does that mean that the Buddha doesn't take refuge? In that case, the Buddha wouldn't be a Buddhist. Because the definition of a Buddhist is somebody who has refuge in the 3 jewels. So now the Buddha isn't a Buddhist.
It's not a Buddhist. He doesn't need to be Buddhist. He's a Buddhist.
He is the Buddha.
He
let's have to know the future.
Label the Buddhist.
So the Buddha doesn't have refuge, and he doesn't have bodhicitta. So he's no different than, an evangelical Christian.
No.
That doesn't really work.
And even
No, that doesn't work, does it?
realize bodhicitta or refuge.
Well, the problem is all of these are concepts and we're trying to apply them to this being who's gone beyond that. So,
Yeah, that's the easy way out.
it's also really
And the debate ground, they don't let you say that.
They don't let you use the mind of the Buddha as non-conceptual? So you don't...
Yeah, no, that's fine. The Buddha's mind is non-conceptual, but does the Buddha take refuge?
well, why would he need to?
Buddha takes refuge in himself.
And why would he need to? I mean, what-
Well, it seems like the words are getting kind of, are in the way here,
Yeah.
in my mind, because it seems like if the Buddha has these realizations, then they would spontaneously arise because he's got these realizations, so...
They've gone beyond those
Yeah.
conceptions.
So, but has the Buddha realized refuge?
By becoming.
Yeah, then he should have refuge if he's realized.
No, after you realize it, you don't have to have it.
They've already
That's one part of realizing it is you don't have to.
But you
have
forget it then? That
That
doesn't make sense to me, because in your common daily life, if you have realized something or learned something, unless you don't have the faculties anymore,
You have
It's with you all the time.
it's with you.
Yeah,
Well, it's different for Buddhists.
yeah. Then you're saying the Buddha doesn't have bodhicitta?
If the bodhicitta is the aspiration to become a Buddha, it's no longer necessary to have it.
So he doesn't have it.
No.
It's in his
So he's teaching sentient beings to have something that he himself doesn't have.
That's just the...
He doesn't need to have the aspiration
methods.
because he's already got it.
The aspiration was to benefit sentient beings.
Mm-hmm.
One of them.
Yeah, he
Right,
teaches
but-
at our level. At our level, we need to
Mhm.
dealing with all that. He doesn't. He's not even.
Okay, think about it.
Actualizing the other half.
Okay, just think about it. Okay, then the third kind of bodhicitta, of the 22, is the bodhicitta like a waxing moon. And in the text, it says that one's good qualities increase higher, like the daily increase of the waxing moon, due to hearing precepts. Here it means, precepts means advice or instructions. And by having gone by magical emanation before the Buddhas of the 10 directions, in dependence upon the meditative stabilization of the stream of doctrine. Okay, now something quite amazing happens at this last part of the path of accumulation, is that you attain this, you have this meditative stabilization called the stream of doctrine, and that enables you here, like it says, to have emanation bodies that go to different pure lands and different places, different universes where there's Buddha's teaching. So you can go different places and listen to teachings. When you have this kind of samadhi also, then you can receive teachings from statues. Yeah, the statues will talk to you and teach you the Dharma. And then also the nice thing is you remember all the Dharma teachings you've ever heard.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's nice, isn't it? So there's something about the power of the samadhi, of this meditative stabilization, that is very strong. And you can see that, if you remember all the teachings you've ever heard, if you are able to go by, make emanations that go to different places to listen to all sorts of teachings from all sorts of Buddhas. Yeah, and if even statues can speak to you and teach you, then your good qualities are really going to grow very, very rapidly. So that's, why it's called bodhicitta of the waxing moon. Because the waxing moon, it's really nice out here in the countryside, not like in the city, but out here, you really can follow the moon. Yeah, generally, except when it gets really clouded. But you can see every day, you know, how the moon is getting bigger. So this kind of bodhicitta is the same. It's, you know, the progress, and you know, especially the accumulation of merit through generating bodhicitta is really visible. So it says, bodhicitta, like the waxing moon, is found on the great path of accumulation. Just as the moon gradually becomes brighter and eliminates darkness, this bodhicitta helps to continuously increase virtuous qualities and knowledges, such as the 37 harmonies with enlightenment. Okay, so your meditation on the four establishments of mindfulness and all the other harmonies with enlightenment really goes quite well. Okay. When I was in Tibet, I remember going somewhere, a few different places, and I remember in one of the places they said that there was a Chenrezig statue that used to give teachings, and in another place there was a Vajrayogini statue that could give teachings. Of course, that didn't happen to me. But, you know, it happened to somebody. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe that person had this kind of realization, and so the statue could teach them. Okay, so on the path of accumulation, in terms of your meditation on emptiness, okay, you're alternating stabilizing and analytical meditation. So if before this point, when you were meditating to generate serenity, you used the image of the Buddha, like what we were talking about in the concentration retreat. So you may have used the image of the Buddha to generate serenity, but then now you're switching so that the object of your meditation is emptiness. Okay, so you can still have serenity on emptiness, but it comes about due to stabilizing meditation. And you're not yet able to have serenity on the correct view that comes about by means of analytic meditation. Because like we were talking before, that the stabilizing meditation is just your mind is on one object, and so that stability, makes the pliancy arise. Whereas analysis, you're investigating, you're researching, so that can disturb the it can disturb the concentration, the stability. Yeah. So but through analysis itself, the analysis generates the pliancy, which leads to the serenity. Yeah, then you're not going to have the unity of serenity and insight. Okay, so if you use the Buddha's body to generate serenity, now you switch to emptiness, and you have to generate all four mental engagements with respect to emptiness. So remember when we were in the concentration retreat, we talked about the four mental engagements. So first, forcibly, you need to really get your mind on the object, and then interruptedly, that your mind is there and then it gets interrupted and you're off the object, and then uninterruptedly you can stay on the object pretty consistently, and then the mental engagement that's spontaneous, where you just turn your mind to the object, in this case emptiness, and it stays there. So you have to generate those four mental engagements with respect to energy while you're doing analytic meditation on emptiness. Okay?
Simultaneously.
Well, before you had those four engagements, but you were doing stabilizing meditation. Now you have to generate those four engagements by doing analytic meditation. Okay? Yeah, it's going to take some work, but when you think about it, it's like, now you know why we take refuge in these bodhisattvas, the kinds of things they've realized. It's really tremendous what they can do with their minds. Okay, so if this bodhisattva, if the analysis interrupts their concentration, they go back to doing stabilizing meditation on emptiness. But this isn't the union of serenity and insight, okay, because the analysis hasn't induced the pliancy yet. Okay, so they continue to alternate stabilizing meditation and analytic meditation. Remember, analytic meditation isn't talking in your head with lots of words and blah, blah, this. It's, you know, the conceptual part, it can be very, very, very subtle. You're really investigating, you know. Like, who am I really? What does the word I really refer to? What is there that is me? Okay, so it's a very subtle kind of analysis. It's not this gross, you know, speaking with debate language type of thing. Okay, so you continue, you know, alternating these two until you can induce, until the analysis can induce the special pliancy, which leads to the serenity. Okay, and so the cause of being able to do this is you have to rely on a really excellent spiritual mentor. You have to have listened to a lot of teachings, and you have to have contemplated the meaning of the teachings that you heard, be that the meaning of the teachings on concentration or on emptiness or whatever. So you need that kind of background. It's not like you know, learn to meditate and you just sit down and, you know, boingo. Okay, at some point in your practice, you must have created the causes. So then the question comes, well, why is this union of serenity and insight important? What's the big deal about having analysis generate pliancy that leads to single-pointedness? Why is it such a big deal? Okay, so let's look at the definition of insight. It's a wisdom of thorough discrimination of phenomena conjoined with special pliancy induced by the power of analysis. So the insight, you know, so insight, which itself is the union of serenity and insight, is a powerful wisdom, okay, and it's a wisdom of thorough discrimination. Yeah, so you can really understand, you know, how phenomena exist. It's conjoined with the special pliancy, which is caused by the analysis. So that mind is able to meditate on emptiness in a very different way than just a mind of serenity. Okay, because just a mind of single-pointedness on emptiness, it just stays on the object emptiness. But it doesn't investigate how things exist. Yeah, so the understanding of emptiness can't get any deeper, or any clearer, or any sharper, because the mind's not investigating. Whereas with this mind, the mind can really investigate, you know. And like I say I, but who in the world is that? Yeah, what does this word I refer to? What is findable? I talk about I like I'm findable. What's findable? Okay. So the analysis can really investigate in that kind of way. Okay, and so therefore this mind of insight, which is a wisdom mind, is a very powerful antidote against the afflictions. Okay, because it apprehends the exact opposite of what ignorance apprehends. So it has the ability to eliminate the ignorance. And it apprehends the exact opposite because it's been able to do this analysis, and it has the serenity to back it up so that when you're analyzing, your mind's not all over the place. And when you reach a conclusion, you can stay on that conclusion and really have it permeate the mind. Okay? So this is a special, this is why this union of serenity and insight is quite important. Okay, so with that union, then within stabilization, you're capable of strong analysis. And that strong analysis, in turn, increases the stabilization. Okay, so here, instead of stabilizing meditation and analytical meditation contradicting each other, they complement each other. So then you can see that it takes your mind in a really powerful way to counteract the afflictions. Okay, so and so that kind of, mind that's the union of serenity and insight on the object emptiness, that is the demarcation of entering into the path of preparation, when you're able to do that. Okay? So on path of accumulation, you're really meditating to try and, clarify your understanding of emptiness, but also improve the quality of your concentration so that your analytical meditation can increase your stability, your meditative stability. Okay? And so then when you attain the Mahayana path of preparation, there's still dualistic appearance, but the coarse dualistic appearance of subject and object that happens at the time of hearing and thinking has disappeared. Okay, so remember with path of preparation, you still have a conceptual understanding of emptiness, and so you're definitely going to have the appearance of subject and object. Okay, so that's dualistic appearance. But the coarseness of this dualistic appearance is not as great as it is when you're, generating the minds that arise from hearing and the minds that arise from contemplating. So, we talk about the three wisdoms of learning or hearing, contemplating or critical reflection, and then meditating. So by going through these three kinds of wisdom, you're reducing the grossness of the appearance of subject and object. Because right now, in our ordinary life, we have such incredible vivid feeling of subject and object, don't we? There's me here, and then there's the rest of the world out there that can either be a headache, or it can give me pleasure. And there's a big difference, And in our perceptions, we have so much of a feeling of there's a me in here, there's a consciousness in here, and then there's something, some object that's completely cut off, unrelated to the consciousness out there, So for us, the difference between subject and object is really great, and it's completely imbued with, inherent existence. These objective realities. I'm an objective reality. I'm real. That's an objective reality out there. It exists exactly the way I perceive it. That person is really a jerk from their own side. I'm really a wonderful person from my own side. Okay. So well, first of all, those wrong conceptions are really wearing away when you're meditating on emptiness. You're not going to have that kind of wrong conception when you're meditating on emptiness. But just the appearance of subject and object are wearing away, as you go through the paths in this way. Okay, so that is the path of accumulation. Any questions?
It's really inspiring.
Yeah. It's like when you listen to this teaching, there's different ways you can hear it. One way is this is really inspiring because there are beings who actually can do this with their mind. And someday, if I've received teachings, I have the whole menu, the whole recipe book on how to do this. So someday, if I really follow these recipes, I'm going to be able to do it too. And so it really gives us a vision of what we can become that's tremendously inspiring. Okay? So you can either see it like that, or you can see it like, oh, that's just so high and impossible, I can never do that. You know, our usual mind that says, you know, that's for other people. I don't have the ability to do it. I'm just little old me. Okay? And so that is the laziness of discouragement. Yeah, so when we get into that, then we should really, you know, switch gears when we're listening to these teachings and really take them as something that's tremendously inspiring. You know, this is talking about what you can become in the future, and that other people have done it. And it's, you know, you just sit there and imagine what would it be like to have a mind that can do that? Yeah. That would be really nice. Yeah. So then that gives us some enthusiasm to practice.
It's also helpful, you know, because we talk from the very beginning about fulfilling our potential. It is our potential to become this. But this so clearly defines what our potential is. It kind of makes it to me, it makes it more universal.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what all minds could do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, all of us can do this. Yeah, this is a potential that is part of the mind, that it has the ability to do this. Everybody, you know, even the kitty. Yeah. Not in the kitty body, but later on.
Teachings, does that count? Every teaching
Yes.
you've ever heard?
Yes. Yeah, so when she attains the great path of the Mahayana path of accumulation, she'll remember being here. Yeah.
So I got a little confused around this ornament of clear realization, first 4 of 22.
Yeah, so the ornament of clear realizations, this is a text by Maitreya that really talks about you know, implicitly the paths and stages to enlightenment. So in it, it talks about 22 kinds of bodhicitta.
Oh, and we're talking about 4.
And so the first 4 are the bodhicitta of the level, you know, of belief.
Okay.
Okay?
The first 4 are just the belief, not the special resolve.
No. The first 4 fall in the category of the bodhicitta of special relief, of the bodhicitta of belief. Those 4 that are in there are, first of all, the bodhicitta like the earth, the bodhicitta like gold, the bodhicitta like the waxing moon. And then the 4th one is a bodhicitta that's on the path of preparation. Okay, which we'll get to. And then the other 18 you're going to find on either the 1st through the 7th ground, or on the 8th through the 9th ground, or on the Buddha ground. So those will fall in the overarching categories of the bodhicitta of pure special resolve, the bodhicitta, the fully ripening bodhicitta, and the bodhicitta free of obscuration. Okay? Okay, so...
You aren't going to get this.
What?
Okay, so I think that the Buddha has the disintegratedness of bodhicitta.
You think the Buddha has the disintegrated, that has the having ceased.
The having ceased.
The having ceased. So the Buddha's bodhicitta has ceased.
No,
it's there.
It ceased, but it's there.
I like it.
Just think about it.
Does it have to be one or the other?
Well, yeah.
we're making it so concrete, though. There's now bodhicitta is like this inherently existent thing.
Mm-hmm.
So is the Buddha in that Does he have it?
None of this kind of works.
It's the aspiration part. If you have an aspiration to be a bhikshuni, for example, now that you are one, do you still have the aspiration?
I hope so.
You have the aspiration to maintain it. You have the aspiration
So you have the aspiration to be a bhikshuni.
but not to become.
Not to become, because you already
Be
are.
or become.
Or the next moment, I'm still becoming a bhikshuni in the next moment.
Yeah, otherwise you made it concrete, there's some achievement done.
Yeah. Okay, let's dedicate and then think about it. Talk about it at breakfast,
May the spirit
Spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Losang's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Guru Ratna Mandala Niryatayami. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West Florida.